Hello, my name is Viviane Bauquet Farre. I actually live in Sonoma Valley, which is next to Napa Valley, west of it. And I just want to thank you so much for inviting me to join you today. It's a great honor. And I just want to say hello to everyone. And I'm looking forward to speaking with you. You know, I think my passion for cooking happened when I was a very young child. I remember being 6 years old and climbing on the stool to have my grandmother cook. And she was very patient with me. I was lucky for that. My family, they were not cooks, you know, and I think I had to kind of find my way through that. And it just was discouraged. I was never encouraged to cook. It was considered not a career of choice. So it never occurred to me, you know, that I could do this. And it took me having my midlife crisis to realize that this is what I want to dedicate my life to. However, my passion for food was always there. So even in my 20s, you know, growing food and having a garden was like an instinct. It's not like I had a purpose or thought about it. I just would do it because that's what I loved. And I think that through that process, you know, my way of cooking evolved slowly and gradually. And when we moved to Sonoma Valley about 3 years ago now, one of the purpose for me was that I could grow food all year long. And my way of cooking has so evolved from the garden. My purpose for the garden was to grow, to have a garden like people had 100 years ago, or people who still live close to the land have today, which is to grow everything you need, not just your vegetables, but the herbs and the spices and the fruits and just everything in one place. So I created a garden that's about 1/4 acre, and I divide it in zones. And I have my herb garden and the perennial vegetables, the annual vegetables that I grow constantly, the orchard, cut flowers. So it's like my little kingdom. And what's happened is that in the last 3 years, since I've been building this by myself, that was another very important purpose. I wanted to prove that I could do this by myself, is that my cooking has completely evolved from the garden. And I would say that Mother Nature is truly my inspiration. I think of all the things that I create from the garden as, you know, a painter would mix her own colors. And I just feel like Mother Nature provides this infinite amount of colors and this range of colors with all the heirloom vegetables and all the things that I can create from them. And it's just been the most delicious and inspiring and truly moving journey for me. And I just feel like I'm beginning, you know, I just feel like I'm just beginning this journey. So I would say that's in a nutshell where I am right now. You know, yes, I had a career to make money, and it was a creative career that I very much enjoyed. But, you know, every spare minute I had, you know, my first little garden right after college was a community plot that I rented for $25 a year. And it was 35 feet by 35 feet. And in there, I was 21. I planted 40, 50 kinds of vegetables. And, you know, that kind of launched me in that kind of cooking. So it's always been kind of my instinct, and that's always what I've done. So, you know, every spare minute that I had, I would be gardening and cooking, and I would come home with baskets of vegetables and immediately, you know, start working with that and, you know, what can I create from that? So, you know, it was certainly where I should have put all my energy when I was younger. But, you know, you always get second chances in life, and it's never too late, I hope. Well, it's summer right now, so the garden is bursting at the seams. And I basically, you know, if you walked into a grocery store or a market and you look at everything on the shelf, my goal is I have it all in the garden. So except for a couple of things. Pretty much that's what I grow. You know, all the vegetables I have. About a dozen kind of heirloom peppers growing and equal amount of heirloom tomatoes right now. But I'm also growing, you know, different kinds of beans, whether they're shelling beans or green beans. And I try to focus on all the heirloom varieties that have not been modified for, you know, the grocery store for transportation or for duration. So, for example, I have an heirloom lima bean right now that I'm growing, which is called the Anderson heirloom bean. And this was brought in the United States in the 1800s. And it's a seed that has been saved since then. And that little lima bean is so delicious and tender. You don't want to do anything to it. I just literally blanch it and I mix it with salt and a really good local olive oil. And that's it. Or maybe I'll, you know, pan fry some mint with the olive oil and then drizzle that on it, and that's it. And it is so utterly delicious. You don't need to do any more to it, you know. So yeah, the garden is, that's very much, you know, what I focus on is all the heirloom varieties that are so exciting. But I also grow a lot of food to make my own condiments. I think the garden has really evolved in that way for me. For example, I'm, you know, every single day I'm making different condiments that I preserve for the season. So, you know, this week is going to be peppers. I have Calabrian peppers I need to preserve. I have Espelette peppers from the Pyrenees that I'm drying and then crushing and powdering to season food for the rest of the year. I have the same with cayenne. I have jalapenos that are starting to ripen that I will be smoking to make my own chipotle. This week is my pepper week. And, you know, every week is a different theme, and I preserve and I have condiments, so many condiments that I find myself, you know, creating recipes that are much more complex than what you see on my website, for example. It would be hard for me to publish those recipes because it would involve people making all these condiments. To give you an example, like a salad right now that I love to make, which is with all the different varieties of heirloom tomatoes that I make. I will make an heirloom tomato salad, just different heirloom tomatoes on a plate. And then I will make a vinaigrette with a little heirloom tomato jam that I made. So I put a little bit of that jam with a little balsamic vinegar, drizzle that on the tomato. It heightens the flavor of the tomato. And then, you know, for contrast of flavor, I make my own cheese. So I made ricotta salata, which I smoke with applewood. So I put shavings of that ricotta salata on the tomato, which brings a smoky flavor. And then for a little salty bite, I take cured olives that I've also done from our own olive trees, and I dehydrate that, and then I powder that. And so I use it like a salt almost. So then I'll put a little bit of the dehydrated black cured olive there. And then, you know, I grow my own little microgreens. So it might be like a mustard microgreen going on top, or calendula petals from the garden. That's you know, that's just the way my cooking is evolving, because the garden, as I said in the beginning, is such a wide variety of flavors. You know, I just feel like I have all the colors of the rainbows and all the shades in between. And it's so much fun to have all these condiments at my disposal that I've created from the garden, and to be able to create recipes for them. You know, right now I have a lot of berries growing in the garden. So I've planted black raspberries, golden raspberries, regular raspberries, and different types of strawberries. So at the end of the day, I go and I pick my berries and I make my own crème fraîche. So I'll whip the crème fraîche to make it lighter. I make my own liqueur. So I have raspberry liqueur. So I'll just serve a bowl of berries with a little drizzle of the homemade raspberry liqueur, and a spoonful of the whipped crème fraîche. And then I'll go collect fennel blossom or green fennel seeds, and I'll sprinkle that on top. And it's, to me, like such a divine dessert because it's so light. It's so actually good for you. You know, there's not much sugar in there, but it's so delicious. I mean, you know, I just feel like with Mother Nature, you don't really have to do too much to it to really have a thrilling experience for the taste buds. Well, I just think of wine as another flavor component. You know, I think when you have a wine that pairs beautifully with a dish, it's just like another flavor right there for your taste buds to get excited about. And, you know, that's one of the reasons I wanted to study wine, is to really understand how to taste wine, how to understand the texture and the elements in the wine so that I could pair it with food. And, you know, one of my goals when we're over this pandemic is to actually do private dinners where I would cook, you know, a 7-course dinner of small vegetable plates and pair each one with a different wine with local winemakers. And I think that's where I'm going for, you know, for my excitement and career in food. And yes, I create a lot of my own cocktails with my own concoctions that I make. I make my own bitters, my own little liqueurs, you know, from all the different fruits like elderberry and raspberry and cassis. So, you know, it's like an extension of food for me, or making recipes. Yeah, actually, I just started a small CSA, which is actually not really like a CSA, because I decided that there's no commitment. I give people a list and they can choose whatever they want from the list. I want people to be thrilled about what they get from me, not just, you know, get a basket of vegetables and half of the vegetables they don't like. But the way that I do it is that I send a little newsletter with photos, and these are the vegetables, and I link a recipe to each of the vegetables that are on the list, and people order whatever they want. And I also offer some of my condiments that I create. I just started this last month, so on the fires I've put a hold on it for now. But you know, I only want to do it with a dozen people and make it very high quality. And so you know, I'm the farmer, I'm the picker, I'm the deliverer. I do everything right now, and there is something really wonderful about that. You know, the garden is hard work. Being a farmer is hard work, and I feel like it connects me with the food even more. It takes a lot of energy to grow food, and it's a goal of mine to really do it by myself, and to have it as my own little creative studio, my own, you know, I feel like you have to put the work into it. I mean, you know, when you're in the kitchen, it's hard work too. Growing food is the same. And I just feel like it keeps you grounded, keeps you realistic, and it keeps you in the flow of that, to me, miraculous thing that, you know, seeds give us. I just remember, I think it was this spring, you know, in the winter I work on my seed order, and then I get this little box about this big, and all my seeds in there. And I just remember looking at the box and telling my husband, you know, this is a whole year worth of food in here. And to me, that's miraculous. And, you know, growing food from your own seeds and then tending to it and then harvesting it and then sharing it with people, whether through the CSA or through the, you know, making beautiful recipes for people. I think it connects me to the cycle of nature, the cycle of earth, and keeps you humble and keeps you creative and keeps you excited about things. At least for me, that's what it does. So this all happened because the land that we bought here has some acreage that is, you know, completely unused. And so mowing it, you know, I just wanted to have it a more holistic way of dealing with it. So we found this young dairy farmer, young couple with 5 cows. And then, of course, the cows have babies. And what do you do with the babies? So we took all the babies. And so we have 5 young cows. They were yearlings, and they were grazing the land. And as a trade, I got a milk share every day, raw milk, mind you, raw milk share. I got a gallon of raw milk every week that I had to go drive and get at the farm. And both my husband and I, we don't drink milk, you know, a gallon. I mean, it's a lot of milk. So I said, well, there's no other choice. I have to make cheese. And I've always made my own fresh cheese, my own, you know, like crème fraîche and goat cheese. Those are so easy to make. But I decided with this raw milk, I need to expand my horizon a little bit. So I've been making camembert, brie. You know, I'm testing robiola right now, just expanding a little bit. And that has been another wonderful discovery for me. And of course, now that's it. There's no U-turn. I'm never not making my own cheese. It's really miraculous to learn about the cultures and the bacteria that create, you know, that transformation. It's really fabulous. We eat on the lighter side, and we have a wonderful local bakery. My dream to expand my garden is in a year or two, I want to grow my own grains. So I think when I get there, you know, I want to grow einkorn and farro, ancient grains that have not been modified for human, you know, industrial purposes. And I think when I do that, I think I'll go back to baking a little bit more. Right now, all my energy has been going into the garden, and there's only 24 hours in one day. So, you know, I sometimes had to choose, let go of certain things. But the grain, and then the other thing I want with the grain is maybe plant an acre of it, but do it as a communal thing with my neighbors and do it all by hand, the way our ancestors used to do. And at the end of the harvest season, harvest it all manually. And I have this dream in my head that, you know, it would be a fantastic community thing to do, to bring us together.
That it sounds magical.
We'll see if I can make that happen. We'll see.
Totally. Listen, my love, listen, thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute revelation to hear what goes on in your day. And it's certainly a wholesome situation, a sustainable, and certainly the carbon footprint is meters away, but from your door to the garden and back into the kitchen.
Yes, yes, and a little muscle power, elbow grease, as they say.
Exactly. All right, Viviane, if there are any questions, and I'm sure a lot of our chefs would love to hook onto your website, and I'll certainly point them into that direction. So I want to say thank you very, very much for having your precious time and spending that with us this afternoon.
You're so very welcome. Thank you so much. I wish I could have actually talked to everyone, but, you know, maybe another time.
Yes. No.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Good. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Viviane. Ciao, ciao.
Bye.